Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty Show and today's live startup review of the Birdhouse number 4 Dynasty League with Ty DeClare from DD Fantasy. He's in the house. What's up today, Ty?
Oh, it's another Monday. Got a fresh startup happening right now, and happy to chat about this one. So it's a good fantasy football Monday. How are you, my friend?
Doing awesome. Tried to bang out a show this morning and got plenty of content coming up this week with a week off. I took the week off after the 4th, so plenty of football to talk. And love doing it with you, any of the guys over at DD Fantasy. If you haven't checked out any of Ty's shows, we'll get you the link down below. He's with DD Fantasy, does tons of great work, especially 2 trade shows in particular. Want to share about those a little, Ty?
Yeah. So we got the all gas trade show with me and my little Goomba, Gabe Garcia. We come every Saturday morning. We break down about 10, 12, however many we can fit in about an hour of trades from the DD Fantasy Football Discord. And then I also got the Dynasty Deal Show with Scott, Connor, and Shane Manila, where we take members-only questions. We give you a power hour. We break down whatever you throw at us. So if you're going over to DD Fantasy Football, you can check out those shows and everything else we got kicking over there.
All right. Yes, definitely check those out. I know I do. I am not one to say that my show is the only one to watch out there, but please smash that like and subscribe while you're tuning in here today. And you can click that little bell for any of our upcoming content here in the Birdhouse. All right, so as I said, we're going to discuss the Birdhouse number 4 Dynasty Startup League. So let's bring that up for you. Now, the format in this one was quite interesting, I'll say the least. Now, Ty had a little to do with that. He brought up the idea of the start 2 tight ends. So we ended up coming up with a best ball start 12, start 2 tight end, 0.75 tight end premium. And then we do have a number of little bonuses here and there, so there's a lot of scoring going on. First off, that's the first thing you talk about when you're talking about a new startup is what's the format. So what comes to mind initially, Ty, when you talk about this format in particular?
I think scarcity is a big one that comes to my mind, especially when we talk about the tight end position. When you start having to start 2 of them, there is a wide gap between some of the talents that you're going to see at tight end. So like we saw on the board here, guys like Bowers and I guess the guy that I had to take at 019 there and Trey McBride, they can be a different breed of tight end. And usually you see the floor of a lot of these tight ends kind of get artificially pushed up because there's some of that scarcity. But with best ball, it also allows you to build differently and deeper and try to approach positions with volume. So it's very interesting. We saw a ton of teams try different things where they tried to have strengths in some places, know they're going to be losing elsewhere, but try to approach it a different way. And really, like when I look at like the Dynasty Daddy and all that, it looks like a very even league, all things considered, coming out of it, which we don't always get, Chris. So it was nice. It's a testament to the people in the league. And I'm really excited to see what the next step and next iteration of this league looks like.
Yeah, me too. I can bring up the Dynasty Daddy power rankings here real quick. I'll slide over to that. As Ty mentioned, the Dynasty Daddy rankings, they do the power rankings. If you go into Dynasty Daddy, it's a free site. If you haven't checked it out, definitely worth looking into. And there we have it. If we can get some of their ads off.
We got to get the big ad on there, huh?
There we go. Okay, so what Ty was talking about was right up here. You look at the power rankings across the board, like it ranges under 120 to, let's see here. Top guy is Steve S. He's at 115, and the bottom guy, Mega Toast, is at 104. So that is pretty tight coming out of the startup as far as, comparing it to some other leagues I've seen where guys have thrown away first rounders and just created disasters right out of the gate. That's tough to build yourself out of when you screw up a startup. I've always liked to say you can lose out of the startup, but you can't really win, right, Ty?
Ah, I was just if you didn't say that, I was going to say that, Chris. Yeah, you can't win out of the startup, but you certainly can lose or put yourself in a very, very tough position. So, yeah, I was happy to see that no one came out of here with just a very ugly roster, we'll call it. And yeah, it was again interesting to see how different people approached it. So, I mean, and you look right, Dynasty has some teams listed as the frauds, but those are the ones that the starter rank can be lower.
Yeah.
But we also know in best ball, it's more so about who's on the entirety of your team versus who's in your top 12. So sometimes those rankings, especially in best ball, don't tell the whole story.
Yeah, that's something I wish, like on Keep Trade Cut, that they had a toggle switch for, was best ball or lineup. I mean, I know Keep Trade Cut, we say it all the time, isn't the Bible, yet we all check it out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of the barometer when you want to get a trade started. You want to make sure you're in the ballpark at least. So I use it. And yeah, I wish they had a best ball versus lineup league, or at least however many starters you had. That would be nice too, something like that, because that definitely changes things up. Now we have a start 12 format here. Let me bring the draft board back up for us. And in a start 12, that's generally a larger size league. And you can see right here, off the bat, the format led to Brock Bowers going number 1 to 101. And I gotta say, Ty, when we came up with this format, I was not quite expecting him to go 101. I figured he was a top 5 pick, but 101, like, are you in any other leagues where he went 101? Let me just
This is
ask
the
you that.
only one I've seen him go 101. But I will say, over in DD, we were having a chat one night, and we were talking about how, and shout out to my guy, Josh McAtee, how Brock Bowers should be the 101, just given where he is in comparison to his position, what he can give your roster and all that. So when we created this roster, again, I never expect Brock Bowers to go 101, but I'm so happy someone had the conviction to actually take him 101.
Yeah, it was ballsy by Havdi there. I am Havdi, Ryan over there. He went ahead and traded up with the Fantasy Reaper, and what a deal that amounted to. It was Reaper's first and 8th rounder for Havdi's 3rd, 4th, and a future first. So if you want to break it down afterwards, you could do that, but I don't really like doing that necessarily, because it's, every pick has its own value at a certain time when it's on the clock and etc. So the fact, though, that Bowers went ahead of Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson is just a testament to the knowledge of the guys in this league, and knowing that, hey, if I don't go quarterback with that 101, I still have the ability to get quarterbacks. And as you see, Havdi here kind of got a gift, I'd say, in getting Hurts falling to the 112. I mean, I'll take that trade-off.
Yeah, when I
For
saw that
sure.
come through, I was like, because I was sitting there at 1-9, Chris, and I was like, I was listening to the live stream. I was like, okay, Chris is talking up these tight ends. Like, there's no way McBride is falling. And I was like, there's no way he's sliding any further. But I'm staring at this Jalen Hurts as well. Like, what are we doing here? So I was hoping and praying someone would try to trade up, but like we were talking about, right? We only had 5 minutes on the clock, so I couldn't really bleed an offer out there. So
Yeah.
like when you trade up for Brock Bowers for 101. And then you get Jalen Hurts at 112. That's a pretty sweet start to your draft.
Yeah, and then he landed McCarthy in the 5th as well. And McCarthy obviously been screaming up the boards. I just did my QB rankings, and I mean, I love Baker Mayfield for all of who he is and whatnot, and being a Tampa guy, but I have McCarthy ranked ahead of Baker. Like, and you could argue one way or the other there, but there's a reason for it. And his youth is just, and the unknown, I think, is there as well. But the one thing you cannot argue is the weapons around him, and to get him at the 501, like, that's just a great start there for Havdi, being able to get Hertz, Bowers, Gibbs, and McCarthy. That's just, I don't know. I'm jealous. I'll put it that way.
Because when you have those kind of difference makers in place on your team, what does that allow you to do from a flexibility standpoint going forward in the draft? Like, you've checked your big boxes, so now you can kind of flow with what the draft will bring you. You don't got to really reach. You can just you can go with the flow. Versus if you draft a certain way and you feel like you have to catch up somewhere, that can lead you to reach on those players and things like that. So I like what he did. I mean, I gotta say, it's Baker over JJ McCarthy for me. And I would, if I was in your shoes, I probably would have taken Baker in that exact spot that you took Baker. But people like them some JJ McCarthy. I think I'm higher on JJ McCarthy than what my expectations say probably will happen. But I'm willing to be wrong. I'm excited for the Vikings offense in general next year here.
I just look at it, and for you, Ty, I know you're a Chiefs fan, and I don't know when you'd hopped on that bandwagon or whatever, because
2003. Don't worry.
Okay.
I've been here for a hot minute.
Okay.
We're okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So you were there for the Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson days.
The Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson, Brian Water, like that Hall of Fame offensive line. That's why I became a fan, because I love establishing that in the NFL. And I was called the KC Chiefs. So yeah, I've been here for a minute.
Awesome. So when we're talking the Chiefs, and of course they're at some point Hall of Fame quarterback Patrick Mahomes, this is where I'm getting at with J.J. McCarthy. I remember when Mahomes took over for Alex Smith, and I'm sitting there and I'm putting together my stats, and I'm like, it just doesn't make sense to have Tyreek Hill a top 3 receiver, Travis Kelce a top 3 receiver, and then to have Patrick Mahomes down at 15 at quarterback. Like, this just is not going to... It's either one way or the other. You kind of have to have a little bit of conviction. Either you're not going to draft Tyreek because you think that Mahomes is going to hold him back, or you just have to move the quarterback up the board. And that's kind of how I feel with McCarthy right now. Like, he's in a system with Kevin O'Connell throwing the ball. I don't see Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson losing any stats this year. I'm not predicting a 5,000-yard, 50-touchdown season like Mahomes had, but at the same time, like 4,500 yards and 35 to 40 touchdowns is well within the realm of possibility, I think.
The nice thing is he feels so safe, because even if he doesn't do the thing, people are going to make excuses for J.J. McCarthy. And the reasons to bet on J.J. McCarthy is everything around J.J. McCarthy. It's Kevin O'Connell, it's Justin Jefferson, it's those weapons, it's the environment that he finds himself in, where Sam Darnold was a top 6 like producing quarterback in, right? So
right.
if Sammy Ballgame is going to do it, I would expect J.J. McCarthy to be able to do hopefully something like that, right? Or at least as we're getting to the end of the season, we're seeing those flashes, that progression. We talk about Patrick Mahomes, right? I think Patrick Mahomes could have started from day one and been a decent quarterback. He did get that start week 18, showed what he could do, and then the Mahomes story told itself from there. I get JJ having the missed season, but also being able just to fully focus on his development and recovery. Like, we'll see if that was beneficial for him. But I'd say people probably have too high of expectations production-wise for JJ McCarthy out the box, but he's also an incredibly safe asset to get into. So I don't mind spending the money on him.
Yeah, and where I've seen him going in my Dynasty startups, it's always been mid-4th to mid-5th-ish. So, like, people, you compare it, Keep Trade Cut has him at number 38 overall. So you should be going early 4th then. So I think he's still a bargain, so to speak. And so, yeah, I'm jumping on it whenever I can, put it that way. I still love me some Baker in this particular draft. And so let's go through here how the first round broke down. You obviously had Trey McBride fall into your lap there at 109. I was saying that the top 3 quarterbacks and the top 2 tight ends should be the top 5 picks based off of the WAR chart that I looked at. I don't know what your thoughts were heading in prior to. Who were you thinking you were going to get at 109?
The interesting part about McBride is people are just hesitant to really put the elite oomph behind McBride, and when they find themselves in formats like this, it's hard to put him above guys like Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, right? Because I mean, people don't think that maybe there's doubts he can do it. Not sure about Kyler. But when I look at what Trey McBride has done and probably will continue to do, he outscored every other tight end, and he only had 2 touchdowns all year. Like, imagine if he actually fell into the end zone instead of falling down at the 2. He would have broke fantasy last year.
Yeah.
Again, even if Marv takes a step forward and actually establishes himself, I don't see that changing what Trey McBride is in the Arizona offense. So if he would have went top 5, I would not have blanked Chris. I would not have blanked one bit, because this is the format to do it. But yeah, I the thing is, and that's why, like, where I had the choice to go 109, I had a choice between 101 and 19. I was like, well,
yeah,
I kind of want to be in the middle for like the snake portion of the draft, but at least at 19, I know I'm going to get one of the elite receivers, one of the elite quarterbacks, or one of the elite tight ends. So I'll leave it at that. And McBride was the one. So yeah.
Yep. No, I think with the 3rd round reversal, for people who have experienced 3rd round reversal in previous years and whatever, it's almost, I don't want to call it a cheat code this year, but there is definitely, I'll put it this way, there's definitely a cutoff somewhere around the middle of the 2nd round where, you're definitely getting guys at the beginning of the 2nd round that could go in the 1st round. So you're getting 2 of those players, and then you're of course getting the front end players in the 3rd round. So I'm not going to say it's impossible out of the front end of the 1st round, but you're definitely, I think the advantage lies in like the last 3 or 4 picks of the 1st round in a startup if you're doing the derby style.
Yeah, no, I'm here for that, and I like having picks in succession where I can make things happen on the board. I don't gotta just wait in the middle and just have the board be decided for me. I like to have some things back to back where I can. So agreed.
Yes, you did your best to try and do that later on with some of the trade downs that you did. Mm-hmm. Now, you went with the 109. I'll just highlight your squad here quickly. So you see you trade out of the 4th round, and I think it was your 4th and 10th that you gave up for the 6th and 7th. I think that's what it was.
Yes.
You gave up that 9th somewhere else.
Yes.
So maybe just quickly explain, because again, we did these trades prior to the draft. So you were, you're always taking a chance trading out of an earlier pick that something's going to be there that you normally would have jumped on. But what made you feel a little confident about trading out of that 409 slot?
Yeah, I find when you're sitting there in the 4th and 5th, that's typically where people are going to start to, I need to get that quarterback set. Like, I need to take a quarterback. But it feels like a lot of the guys that go in that range are the players that players prefer. But when you look at like what they are to your dynasty rosters between the 4th and the 6th and the 7th, you can probably just backfill with the other position there and take whatever kind of value you can get. So if we look at, was it Trevor Lawrence went to that pick that went there, right? And knowing that I traded out of there, and I think sitting at the 2 and 3 there, I wanted to make sure that I at least had my quarterback set based on the fact that everyone before me valued the wide receiver. No other tight ends really went yet. Some quarterbacks went, but I felt like Mahomes at 2-4 and Herbert at 3-4 will allow me to scoop up on that. Also knowing, like you said, like there's plenty of quarterback that kind of fell into the 4th and 5th there as well. So, so what I did, move down from the 4th, let me get the 6th, and then I'll take that loss if I can move up from the 8th and move into the 7th. So it ended up being Trevor Lawrence and Jaden Reed for RJ Harvey and Caleb Johnson. And when we're looking at this format where it's a 0.5 for a first down for a skill player, right? And then for quarterback, it's a 0.2 for first down passing. So I think the rushing quarterbacks are going to destroy this format. But if I
it's
can get
actually
somebody
a full point for a first down.
Oh boy, yeah, crazy. So if I can get the tactical scramblers like a Mahomes, like a Herbert, I think that's a nice happy medium. But there's heavy negatives to like the interceptions and all that. So I wanted some decent quarterbacks. Usually I like to play a little dirty at quarterback. But let me get the good quarterbacks out of the way here. And that did open me up to kind of just hit the positional players as they came up and were available.
Yeah, I like to set the scoring system so that you can get away with it, but at times it'll cost you for having if you just run out Geno Smith and Derek Carr from the past and the bottom end of the barrel, if that's how you want to run it, if those guys have a crappy game, it's going to cost you. So that's why I do the -3 for an interception and -3 on top of it for a pick six. But the first downs, I've always been a proponent of getting those into the system, because I say it now, but I wish back when I started fantasy football in the early 90s, instead of doing PPR, we would have done a point per first down. And then everybody would have just thought that was the norm, because it just makes more sense, right, Ty? I mean, that's an actual thing that's happening in the game that means something. A catch can be -1 yards, and why are we getting positive points for something like that, right?
Right. Why is this Tyler Lockett catching the ball for 4 yards and falling down, getting the same as a play that should actually matter? I hear you.
Exactly. So I think we did that in this system, so I'm happy with it. But back to your team. So fortunately for you, then, George Kittle, who honestly I was considering where I took Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. I
was considering Kittle. Man, what a steal there in this format.
I ran to the podium. I had the FBI at the door. Like they were saying, "Let me in," because I can't believe that George Kittle fell there. I was shocked, Chris, that George lasted that long. Seeing what happened with the other tight ends.
Right, like Laporta went about where he usually goes, right? And then I think people just kind of forgot about Kittle, or they just didn't want to bite because of his age. I don't know. It's like the guy's not that old. I mean, he's still 5 years younger than Kelsey. And Kittle's he plays like an animal. And if it would have caught up to him, it would have caught up to him by now already. I think he's just going to be able to sustain playing hurt. That's how he does. And the guy's awesome. Could go down as one of the best literally ever as far as blocking and receiving goes combined. You got a steal there.
I'll tell you for free, if I still had my pick at 4-9, I would have taken him there, right? I would have taken him above any of the guy. If I didn't have Herbert, I might have taken Purdy and then hoped that Kittle fell.
Sure.
I could take them both. But I mean, think about San Francisco for a minute, right? Debo gone, Ayuk returning from an injury, Juwan Jennings still a stud, I guess. Christian McCaffrey. People aren't putting the oomph behind Christian McCaffrey, which I feel like I am, but I'm hesitant to do it because no one else is. But what is the one constant? George Kittle. So someone is going to go off in that offense. Why not Kittle? If you're giving negatives everywhere else, someone has to be a benefactor in this kind of an offense, and I think it's George Kittle. So happily taking George Kittle here. Really, Chris,
and the fact
where
that
would you have taken him? If I know you said you were kind of around Baker. Look at the people that went after Baker. Would you take Kittle over any of the guys that went after Baker?
Would I have taken
Kittle? Any look at all the players that went there.
Maybe Hunter, who fell, obviously. Because it was between Baker, Hunter, and Kittle is who I was trying to decide between, and I just went Baker because I didn't have my 5th round pick, So I didn't want to push my second quarterback off all the way till the sixth round. That's where it came in really.
Mm-hmm.
I was more willing to play dirty at tight end, like across the board with my tight ends, and you'll see when we get down there what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
But and you taking Kittle made total sense because you had McBride. Now you were able to lock up the best tight end room in the league off the bat, and and you did what I did at tight end. You did it at wide receiver very well. I mean, you landed some nice bodies there that will, like you said, in best ball, you can do it and you can get away with it. But yeah, back to who would I have taken? I don't know who else other than Hunter. It's hard to say. You could argue Purdy as well. I mean, Baker and Purdy, it's pretty much a toss-up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The interesting thing too
Kittle.
is like you're almost trying to balance like tradability, dynasty value, and like what he actually means to your roster, right? Because I find in these formats, people don't really like to trade the tight end. Like once they have him, they're probably keeping him, right? So if your goal is to be flexible, then yeah, like you could take a Hunter, even a Travion Henderson, right? Or try to work the quarterback mark with a Brock Purdy. Like I can get behind that. But when you think about like what the guy actually means to your roster and how having a tight end like George Kittle opened me up to be flexible with the rest of my picks because I had those boxes checked. Like that's kind of what I wanted to look at there. And something really interesting that was unintentional but happened was I got a lot of AFC West players and a lot of NFC West players. And just so I have correlation in my lineup just based on like NFL division somehow. I don't know how that happened, but it happened.
Are they all matched up in week 17 though, too, for the title game?
Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful, huh? I've taken a bit of a break on the underdog that I did last year, so I'm not up to date as much as the week 17 matchups, but I do know that at least having them being in the same division means they're going to play each other at least twice. So,
for those of you out there who don't know what we're talking about, for underdog, it's a best ball format, and since there's so many people playing in it, one of the what would you call it, strategies that's become quite more popular now in the last couple of seasons is to correlate your week 17 matchups, because you want your studs to be in a high scoring game in that matchup. And now to do it in a dynasty format, that would be reaching a little bit, but Ty did his best try here, I guess. All right, so we've got Hergot in the house. He's quite a follower of you, Ty. He loves Scott and Shane and all you guys on DD Fantasy as well. So let's rip into Hergot's team here a little bit. Mike's chimed in. Now he started off with Burrow at 106. I can't hate that at all. And then followed it up with Puka on the way back, which is definitely solid to land. That's what I was talking about. You can get studs all the way till the mid-second here in this in the startups this season. And then after that, he went T. Higgins and then grabbed Hawkinson, Dak, and Henry. What do you think about his start there, first 6 rounds?
Yeah, again, you're checking all the boxes, right? You got your quarterback set. You have your A+ wide receiver in a Puka Nacua. You got your high outcome wide receiver in a Higgins. I am a massive fan of TJ Hawkinson this year for a lot of the reasons we already laid out when we were talking JJ McCarthy. And really, like, he's another year off that knee injury. Like, I could just see Hawkinson being a difference maker in Dynasty, in fantasy, across formats. So I'm happy with that. And you talk about like your best bang for your buck running back by. I know you were thinking about Henry at your pick there as well, right before he went, right? So
possible.
Like to be able to get Henry there just really makes all the other picks you made before that very, very nice. Yeah, you come out of there about the early 6 rounds with not a lot of needs. You just got to fill out around the bets that you've made now. So I like how he approached that.
Yeah, and then he was able to bang out 3 straight solid veteran wide receivers in DK, Waddle, and Judy, all of which have their warts, but at the same time, in best ball, you're going to get the best of them. And I love those guys for best ball, honestly, all three of them, because Waddle's got the questionable Miami offense, right, and Tyreek's status, but Waddle's going to be there, and he was a top 10 draft pick at one point, and the talent is still there. It's really, can Tua stay healthy ultimately for that offense? And the same kind of goes true for Judy as well. Do they get that quarterback situation solidified or not? So what do you think, I guess, of Judy and Waddle versus some of the other receivers in that range?
Yeah, I mean, I love the guys that were going around these bets. I love the value that you got on these guys, and it's more so about like almost what it does in the aggregate for you, right? Because if you start if you enter your league with Puka,
Right.
Higgins, Metcalf, Waddle, Judy, Chris Godwin, and Khalil Shakir, you're feeling great. Like you're feeling great, right? I start 12, right? So it's not about
Right.
always like having the top end guys in a start 12, especially in best ball, right? It's about how you package it together. And when I look at that, I just see guys that they may not have like the week to week, I'll call it like stability of the guys you see in like the first couple rounds, but those spike weeks are there. And they think about Judy, man. He's the only ticket in town. Like, who
Yeah.
else is going to go off but Judy? Waddle, yes, he had an off season, but Jonnu is now out of the building, and Waddle puts in big points and big numbers when he's healthy. So fingers crossed on that. DK Metcalf, TBD what the Pittsburgh Steelers are. But hey, he's big, he can score. We'll see if there's a couple moon balls from Aaron Rodgers, and then it works out. But again, put it all together, I love it.
Yeah. No, DK is my guy. I can't get rid of it. I mean, and now getting to catch passes from the best thrower of footballs that he's had in his career, I think even in the Pittsburgh Arthur Smith offense, DK should still have a decent season. I mean, 1,008 touchdowns should be the floor almost, just because there's nobody else there.
You'd hope. Yes, you'd hope.
You would hope, yes.
Yes. And dynasty managers expect that to happen, I would say. So you'd hope that happens.
Oh yes. But yeah, you mentioned the decision I had there between Henry and McCaffrey. Oh, it was what it honestly came down to is that I have so many more Henry shares than McCaffrey, and I just I
Yeah.
just clicked on McCaffrey because I think now I have maybe 3 shares of McCaffrey total, whereas I have like 8 or 9 shares of Henry. So,
Now let me ask you something, because I love your quarterback room, especially when you think best ball, right? Like I want to have at least 3 options, maybe 4, maybe 2, depending on if I have a stud guy. But you got
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield, Michael Penix, Bryce Young, and Geno Smith. I love it. I love it. Knowing how it turned out, if you could go back in hindsight, would you have taken just McCaffrey and Henry back to back with those 2 picks, or would you have stuck with the Penix there?
Literally that was what I was about to do in that one. And see, I don't know that Bryce Young would have. I could have taken Bryce Young where I took Kamara because I thought about that. So I just don't know if I trust Bryce Young enough to feel comfortable with him as my QB2 is where it's at. I'm a big proponent. I don't have to go double elite quarterback out of the gate anymore, like a few years ago. That was the
We were all
the big
on that train
strategy.
for
We were
a
all
bit,
doing
yeah.
it, yeah. But at the same time, like Bryce Young is right on that fringe. Like if I can get Dak Prescott, if I can get Jared Goff, even Justin Fields, who has a iffy right status. I mean, he's just way more high end than Bryce Young. Bryce Young, I know, looked good the last 6 weeks of last season, but can he sustain that? Could he actually be a top 10 quarterback for a whole season? I don't know. I find it hard hard to believe that can happen. But I mean, he got Ted McMillan. They added some weapons there for him.
It's one of those things where if the Baker bet, the Penix bet, the Young bet, and the Geno bet, if they all pay off, you are miles ahead of other teams because of like the quarterbacks you've chosen. But like you said, like if you don't have one of those top guys, you almost have to just approach it like a bouquet of options in a best ball league like this. Like I want to have multiple options per week. Yeah.
Yeah, part of it too was I guess I knew I was going to be weak at tight end, so I wanted to make sure I was good at quarterback. That kind of thing, that allows you talk about flexibility, right? This gives me flexibility having the 4 quarterbacks. I mean, just about everybody can come to me wanting any of these 4 guys and ask me about them, and I'm going to be willing to entertain the offer. Part of the reason too I took Penix was I did take Drake London with our second pick, so I wanted that to kind of play into it as well. I'm a proponent of stacking because I just think that best ball, obviously you want those high end weeks. I do it both in lineup and best ball leagues. I don't know that there's been a true study that we've seen to verify the advantages of it. I'm sure they're out there, but what can I say? It just seems like it's a better way to do it, right?
Well, I think that's it, right? I don't want to play fantasy and come in 4th place, right? I want to win or I want to be in last. So if I'm going to do that, I want to try to maximize the bets that I've made. So if I am making the bet on Drake London, then it could make sense, to also take the quarterback with that. I love to do it at tight end. Like if I could have found my way into a Purdy and a Kyler, I would have felt great having both like McBride and Kittle. I like doing at the high end wide receiver to try to stack as well. Just try to maximize that if I can. I am more so an in best ball than lineup guy. I tried with the lineup. I feel like it takes away a little bit if those guys do have that off week in lineup where my other league mates can also make those lineup decision errors, and I would have just rather started the better player versus just taking the stack, right? And no matter what, I guess I'll ask you, like, do you pay up for the stack or do you just let it fall to you and take it if it's there?
No, I've learned to just let it fall, and if it's there, it's there. Kind of like this situation where Penix was there, right?
I'm
but I wasn't going out of my way after the draft because I drafted Geno Smith to go and try and trade for Brock Bowers or even Jacoby Myers, right? Or I wasn't trying to trade. I don't even know where Jacoby Myers went here. Must have been round 11-ish.
I think that was the first wide receiver that I took was Jacoby Myers.
Yes, it was. There you go. And there we go. There's his lovely wide receiver room. I mean, we're talking dirty here, but it looks beautiful in the end. Jacoby Myers, Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel, Keon Coleman, Hollywood, Thielen, Pop Douglas, like you were getting dirty.
and if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it, right? Like if I would have taken a couple of those guys and stopped, I would have been in a horrible spot. And if you look at Dynasty Daddy, I definitely have 12 of 12, the worst wide receiver room. But in best ball, you can almost do it, right? If you have enough shots week over week. So, yeah.
Oh, I know, because this is how I've done a number of tight end rooms. Like you got 2 of the top 3 or 4 tight ends, however you want to rank Kittle. But if you're not getting those guys, I am just playing dirty. And there was one league, a lineup startup I didn't draft a tight end till Hunter Henry in round 16.
Beautiful.
I went Hunter Henry, then Zach Ertz, and probably Taysom Hill, and somebody else. Totally ugly. Did you know that Austin Hooper almost outscored Kyle Pitts last year? That's one stat I found out when I was looking for the dirty tight end.
To say I'm surprised would be a lie, but to say I'm disappointed with that, that's my truth. That is something else. And
right?
honestly, when you think about the format too, right? Like what I was envisioning coming into this is that people are going to try to take those dirtier or like the kind of like the flat range tight ends. They're going to overdraft those guys based on the format, where maybe some of these wide receivers will fall, especially if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like 10 wide receivers go in the first 2 rounds. So
Yeah.
my kind of bet was let's wait on the wide receiver. I'll bet the tight ends raise up, and that can lead to some opportunities later on.
Yeah, and you could totally see. I could tell you were doing that right when you did these 4 running backs
Yeah.
here. You grabbed from this nice. We've got a nice range this year, a nice tier from rounds 5 through 7 or 8, where you can hammer the running backs, right? You can get all number 1 running backs on their teams, all with good potential to possibly finish top 10. Along with some youth here, you got 2 rookies as well as 2 solid veteran guys. I'm not on the Kyron Williams trade, but where you
But
grabbed him, I can't argue there. No,
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, we all grabbed good value at running back here in the 6th round. It was pick your poison, really, any of these guys. But yeah, what you were able to do then, I could tell you were going to go with these wide receivers. I was surprised at the Isaiah Likely pick, but the value, it's ADV, it's artificial value for the most part. But if Andrews is out, Likely could get into your lineup very easily in this format.
Right. And I legitimately, I think I was just really hoping that Evan Engram was going to be there, but our best ball Bruni got me. So I'm a likely liker, right? He put up a massive week 1, last year, and yes, if something does go wrong with that offense, it is tight end centric. So let me just get that tight end.
Yes.
If Kittle or McBride don't have a week or on bye weeks, I'll be happy to have that Likely and some other dustbin guys later on after him. So, yeah, would have loved that to be an Engram. But, I mean, I'm looking at the range that was there. Ayuk, Josh Downs, Khalil Shakir's nice, Calvin Ridley, sure. But, I don't know who else I would really take over Likely in a start 2 tight end format.
Well, as you can see, and Ferguson going here in the 11th, then Dallas Goedert I grabbed. Yeah. But then when Brenton Strange and Theo Johnson went at the turn, that's when I knew things were going to get nuts here. Yes. And they did, because as you were hoping, look at all of the orange here through round 16. These guys are guys that are usually going in rounds 20 or later of most drafts. But we had Ben Sinnott, Elijah Arroyo, Chig, Ertz, JT Sanders, Fannin, all these guys, just people needed bodies in a start 2 tight end format. I mean, and you were able to scoop up decent veterans in these rounds 10 through 16. So you capitalized on it.
Yeah. And I'll tell you for free, if anyone is a big Keon Coleman fan, I will happily get him onto your team. I literally took Keon Coleman because I'm like, okay, at least one of these wide receivers has to have some sex appeal. So give me that one, and I can maybe find a deal for him later on. So happy to make a deal for any of these wide receivers that I've been really itching for.
He has been getting steamed up lately, I must say. It's just about every podcast I listen to, or every other one, they're talking about him. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's just because Theo likes him and then everybody else likes him over at Player Profiler. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I'm an FSU guy, so I don't mind keeping me some Keon Coleman, but I just find it hard in that offense. He was looking good last year at the beginning of the year and then got injured, and it's just hard to buy into a Bills receiver right now. Now, best ball, it's okay, but in a lineup league, it's really difficult.
Yeah, and it's difficult because the ambiguity of the situation, right? There really isn't a true one on the team, and I think people will look at Keon Coleman and think he's rocked up, he's big, maybe he can be the quote-unquote alpha, right? I mean,
right.
Last year, what, 8 points per game, like not
Right.
great. 5.15 Trinity score over on DD Fantasy Football. That's how I try to understand wide receivers. I use the Trinity score,
Yeah,
which tells me
use the
how these
Trinity.
NFL teams are actually using these guys. So, not really anything to write home about usage wise, but if you look at these ambiguous, that's not a word, these
Ambiguous. You got the
ambiguous
word.
thank you very much. I need a dictionary thesaurus on hand at all times. These
Yeah, it's all
ambiguous
right. You can
situations.
say it. That's how they say it in Canada. I get it.
Yeah, there's an extra U in there somewhere. Yeah. Like these ambiguous situations, like that's where I think, especially in July and August, we start to really sort of fill in those gaps of where we hope guys will really balloon up and find value. And at a price of what was that, the 13th round, you can't go
13,
wrong.
yeah.
You can't go wrong,
No.
right? But yeah, so I'm happy to be wrong on Keon Coleman, but I don't think he's going to be anything league breaking. But I think in best ball he'll give you some weeks for sure, and that's all I'm trying to collect.
For sure. Yeah, best ball much better option than in the lineup league, unless like Scott would say, you'd have to play him every week, right? He'd have to be your last wide receiver so that you're actually playing him, because otherwise you're not getting any use of him sitting on the bench, and those 20 or 30 point weeks sitting on your bench don't do you any good, right?
And then he has one of
Um,
those weeks, and you try to sell him, and they're like, "Oh, he already scored that. He's not going to do that again." So you're just twiddling your thumbs. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, that round had quite a few of the. I was able to grab Darnell Mooney.
Love
Speaking
that.
of the Trinity
Love that.
score, he was money last year, and then so was Rashid Shaheed. Had the unfortunate injury. Otherwise, I'm sure he'd have gotten picked earlier than this, based off of well, at least of what he was scoring last year at that pace. Do you think he can get back to that? Let me ask you that, because Rashid Shaheed's a super interesting guy. He was basically scoring as much as Olave, right? Do you
Yeah,
think
13
with
points a
time?
game. Yeah, I mean, he was something else. It just, yeah, is he healthy, and can that offense support him? Is the question, right? Um, I
Yeah,
think that the Saints will probably try to use Shaheed in the same way that they did, which is perfect for best ball. And again, that was with what, Derek Carr last year, so you're not really writing home about the quarterback play. But I mean, can he do what he did? Of course, sure. He just has to be healthy to get there. I don't know if he's healthy. I don't. But if he's
right.
healthy, if Tyler Shuck or whoever's behind center can throw a football more than 40 yards, I think we'll be okay.
Yes. Well, I mean, we'll get to see that. I don't mind their troubles as a Buccaneers fan. I'll tell you that much. The Saints have brought it on themselves, and I'm laughing every week about it.
Oh yeah.
So, all right. Let's move back up here. I want to talk about a couple other teams. We mentioned Hergott's team. Now, Ramzak took on a different approach.
Hmm.
He, of course, traded up for my first rounder and landed Lamar Jackson there at the 104. Now, what are your thoughts on trading up into the, to get a second first rounder this year in startups? In the past, we would do it for the dual quarterbacks, but now, Ty, what do you think?
Yeah, and I mean, if I'm in like a 12 team, start 8, start 9, I'm still doing it for the quarterbacks. I think if you can have those elite quarterbacks, like that makes a big difference. When you get into like the start 12s or the best balls, you can approach it differently. So I don't need to do it, but I personally like having an elite quarterback by any means, because when you have one, again, we talk about flexibility, right? It's when I have a Lamar on the roster, he got Kyler Murray, but I mean, even if you just rolled with the Aaron Rodgers and then you picked up another like a Joe Flacco later, you're still feeling
Yeah,
great because of what Lamar Jackson can bring to your lineup. So I don't mind trading up, but again, in best ball, if that comes at the expense of like a 3-for-1 or it comes at the expense of my flexibility, I might not be as excited to trade up. But if I am going to trade up, it's going to be for someone in a scarce position like a quarterback, like a tight end. I'm probably not doing it for a wide receiver, and I'm not trading up in a running back in the first round. So it would have to be for quarterback, or for tight end, which it was for quarterback.
Yeah, it's a great point. If you're going to do that, and in order to do it, you generally do have to end up giving up a future first, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do that, I definitely want to be getting a quarterback because just like in the NFL, it's very hard to find good quarterbacks in the first round of our rookie drafts, right? I mean, their hit rates, those are facts, those are studies, right? For every for every Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow, you're finding three Zach Wilsons, and it's not easy to play the position, and it's not easy to scout the position. And so when you're drafting somebody like Cam Ward, you're just rolling the dice. I mean, this isn't an I hate Cam Ward speech here by any means. It's just, I'm saying, like, it's 50-50. Look at Bryce Young. Bryce Young was the 101, right? And now here I am. I just picked him in the 8th round, and I'm still having questions about him. I
In the
mean,
same season with Bryce Young, where we were like, oh, he finished well and he had a hot streak. He was a borderline. Is he going to be in the NFL next year? Like the sways that can come with these guys. Like even guys that are 101 are not immune. Agreed.
right. Yes. And I was watching, who was it? Dynasty Domain this morning, and they were talking about how the wide receivers actually now have a more solidified, like, the insulated value than quarterbacks even. Because you look at some of these quarterbacks, right? You got Justin Herbert in the 3rd, Trevor Lawrence in the 4th. 2 years ago, those guys were going back to back right behind Joe Burrow in the 1st round,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh,
Whereas,
I remember the Herbert 101 talk a couple of years ago, right? Like we see some
absolutely.
big swings.
And Kyler was the first quarterback off the board 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yes, they're kind of insulated in that they're still in the first 4 or 5 rounds, but they're not in that elite. Like Malik Neighbors could blow out his ACL tomorrow, and he'd still be going top 15 next year in a startup, right? So that's where, yeah, these receivers, in particular the high end wide receivers, because there's a big gap there, and you were able to take advantage of that. A lot of people talk about that, especially in best ball, like the wide receivers that go in range, round 6 through 9 in best ball aren't a whole lot different than those receivers that go in rounds 10 through 13, right? Like your Juwan Jennings, Jacoby Myers. Those guys are getting into your lineups just as much as DK Metcalf, or else otherwise, you're taking a shot on a rookie like Matthew Golden. Who knows what you're getting, right? So that's just those top end wide receivers have really just gained value. And look at, again, the amount of quarterbacks that went in the 1st round. Last year, how many quarterbacks were going in the 1st round? Like 9 or 10?
Yeah, it felt like if you weren't getting Anthony Richardson at that 110, like you were on Scary Street, right? Like it was get me a quarterback and get me him early, right? How did that work out?
Right. And now Jalen Hurts is falling all the way to the 112 here. Like, what are we doing? Now, I'm still on the Jalen Hurts at the 104 boat in most cases, but not everybody is, obviously. And I'll be happy to grab me some Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown in the 3rd round. But
Very much so. Yes. Yeah.
But
For those that don't know, I am AJ Brown fan numero uno. I would say.
Oh yeah.
Big fan of AJ Brown. Yeah. Like I want to go back to what you did there as well. So for that Lamar Jackson trade, was it the 2nd,
Yes.
the 7th, and a 1st? Is that what it was?
Yeah,
Or
I
what was
got I got his 2nd, 7th, and 10th
it? And 10th.
for the 104, my 12th and 18th. And I got his future 26 first.
So Lamar, Tootin, and Adonai Mitchell
Yes.
for Brian Thomas, Javonte Williams, Geno Smith, and a 1st.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and a start 12 best ball. Uh, love me some Lamar. I'll take the package on that one.
Yeah.
And you talk about insulated value like we just were. you feel great about Brian Thomas Jr. the same way you feel good about the guys you were getting in the first round. J-Mo, Gino, great pieces to have in best ball. A future first is awesome. Tootin, I hope the best for Scootin' Tootin, right? I think.
Hey, I've got me plenty of Tootin.
Plenty of Tootin, yeah, believe me, plenty of Tootin.
Yes.
And something I want to talk to you about, because I saw it as we got to the back end of our draft, is in best ball, like there's a certain threshold of running back that I want to roster, and these guys that could not have weekly roles, I want to avoid like the plague. So
absolutely,
Tootin almost feels like one of those like bottom line numbers of guys that I'm willing to take a bet on, because if you take anyone lower here, you have to do it with a plan.
Yes, absolutely. Like I'm trying to find my cutoff at running back. Okay, so Audric Estime was like my bottom end. Like that's a total dart throw that I probably normally wouldn't have even done. But Estime does have the small possibility of being Sean Payton's goal line / fourth quarter closer. There's that possibility. Now with them signing J.K. Dobbins, obviously that likelihood is a little bit less. But at the same time, you know, J.K. Dobbins is still the newer guy in the building, so who knows how Sean Payton ends up feeling about him. But that is like Keon Mitchell I can understand because of the explosiveness, right? Mm-hmm. But after that, like when you get to guys like Zach Moss, no thanks. Like even Damian Martinez, Will Shipley, I don't want straight handcuffs like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was going to say straight handcuffs. So I took Mostert in the 26th round. One part because we're in the 26th round.
Yes.
But I bet you can guess what the plan is, right? If early season Genty doesn't get hurt, guess where Mostert's going? To the waivers.
Oh, he's
right?
Right. Exactly.
So it's just that's the kind of bet you have to make. You have to do it with a plan. I'm not trying to hold these zeros all year. Yeah.
No. And one other thing, if you're doing a best ball startup, make sure you understand like these last 6, 7, 8 picks that you're making, keep them fluid on your roster. Like, do not be afraid. For instance, my pick, Audric Estime, he's really no different than my Tim Patrick pick in round 29. Okay? They're all valued. If you want to use the keep trade calculator, I would make my own calculator, and they're all valued at about 1,200. Okay? So if there's any of these receivers that are doing better than an Estime gets, I mean, Estime is somebody who week 1 could be a healthy scratch for all we know. And then get them off your team. Like, don't be afraid to get and move guys, especially on the bottom of your rosters in best ball leagues. If there's one thing you should get out of this is that you really have to manage the bottom of your roster way more so than you do in a lineup league. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, 100%. Because, and that's what I wanted to ask you too. So in a start 12, right? How many like weekly reliable assets or guys that could enter your lineup do you want to have in a start 12, we'll call it? So how many weekly options do you usually like to have in a situation like that?
Do you want me to give you Brandon's answer from the other week?
Give me Brandon's answer, give me yours, give me the Webster's dictionary, whatever you got.
So my thought, until I heard Brandon, my thought was always around 20, 21. That's where I wanted to be. And then when Brandon said 24, I thought about it, and it made sense. But I also understand that when he's saying 24, he's, those bottom 3 guys are probably not too special, all right? At the same time, like, I'll try and get up to as many as 25 or 26. Like, I really hate rostering backup quarterbacks in this kind of format. Now, if I have a Lamar, okay, then yes, maybe I'll roster Cooper Rush. If I have Joe Burrow, then maybe yes, I'll roster Jake Browning, right? Just for the off case that something terrible happens, especially in the preseason here right now. But then come week 1, I mean, Yeah, if Burrow goes down on my team that I have Burrow in, and I let Jake Browning go, yeah, I'll have to pay a little bit extra, but I'll do my damnedest to make sure I get him in the waiver process. But yeah, that's really where it comes down to. I really only want like 3 or 4 dudes, honestly, that are getting zeros. I don't know. Where do you think?
Yeah.
Where do you sit at that, Ty?
My general rule is however many starters there are, give me double that, right? If I'm in a 10 team
Yeah,
start 10, give me 20. If I'm in a 12
yeah,
team start 12, give me 24. Because like you
yeah,
said, I want the bottom of my roster to be fluid where I can take
yeah,
advantage of waivers. I can switch out some of these wide receiver darts for more wide receiver darts. I can
yeah.
not roster some of these backup quarterbacks. And that's another thing too. Yeah, I don't want to have a lot of backup quarterbacks. You see, in my draft, I took Cousins and Winston late. That was mostly because I saw a
Those
lot of,
are,
they're decent. They're a little different because again, we're gonna
yeah.
know if something happens with those guys pretty early, and I saw a lot of the teams in the league were building about 4 to 5 quarterbacks deep. So I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to match the league in that sense, and with those roster spots, I'm cool keeping those ones. Like you can have a couple zeros, right? Just do it
Right.
strategically, but yeah, I want to keep the back end flexible so I can take advantage of waivers. And guess what's going to be available weeks 14, 15, 16, 17 when teams either get knocked out or these backup quarterbacks that get these jobs late that you can add on. So I wanna keep some room to be able to make room for those guys when I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And the 2 guys you grabbed are the bigger names as well. Like they just have the name cachet, right? Like somebody took Riley Leonard around before you took Jameis Winston, right? Well, Riley Leonard, I mean, unless you watch college football, most people don't really know who Riley Leonard was, right?
Right.
But Jameis Winston, everybody knows the guy throws 40 touchdowns and 40 interceptions whenever he gets the opportunity, right? And both of those, Cousins and Winston, those are both 2 dudes who could easily get traded in the preseason if there's a bad injury somewhere. They're both in situations where that could happen. Um, Now, Cousins, I don't know with that contract how they're going to be able to finagle out of that, but it could happen. I mean, there were heavy rumors of him to Pittsburgh if Rodgers wasn't going to go there, but obviously that doesn't matter now.
Yeah,
Um,
I think your gut's right there. It's going to take something to happen in the NFL for a team to bend the knee to make it happen, and that team's probably going to have some cap space, and Atlanta's probably going to have to eat some. So it'll take a bit of a meeting of the minds, but I'm sure something will happen if it does.
yeah, yeah. Regardless, the point being that you took guys that people know, right away. They know their names, and that matters in trades. It's something called artificial dynasty value. We talk about it all the time, and like it or not, it absolutely does matter. Um, all right. So again, just to reiterate, why again do you want wide receivers on the bottom of your roster versus running backs,
Yeah.
as opposed to a lineup league, Ty? Why is that in particular something that you want to do?
And if the running backs we're talking about are Javonte Williams or guys like that who have a weekly role, then I'm always going to lean that. But wide receivers, any of these dart guys, like I'm looking at my roster, so Deontay Johnson, Devon Vele, Nick Westbrook-Akeen,
Yep.
Demarcus Robinson, like Andre Yoshibas, any of these guys could catch a 40-yard touchdown pass. I mean, Nick Westbrook-Akine scored like 95% of the touchdowns for Miami
He was
or for the
gold.
Titans last year, right? So these guys are relatively inexpensive. They have no trade value, but their value to my roster is if I collect enough of them, someone's gonna spike. And my entire roster is kind of built around there is room for guys to step up week over week and have a week. So I don't want to roster running backs that are going to be zeros unless someone else gets injured. I don't want to roster quarterbacks who aren't starting. And if I have enough at tight end, I don't want to have too much at tight end where it's just they're not going to enter my flex. So, I think the flexing and having to start 3 wide receivers makes it more important. If this is a start 2 wide receiver, you may have even seen me go uglier here, Chris, like legitimately. But I think I want to have guys that can just enter my lineup, and the best way to do that is wide receiver with these late picks.
Yes, absolutely. You just hope they fall into the end zone because trust me, it happens all the time. And at wide receiver, you even get those weeks where Jamar Chase will get shut down and one catch for 7 yards, right? And you need Yoshivas to fall into the end zone somehow, and he happens to be the guy that gets into your lineup then. That's the beauty of best ball. And I gotta say, I've really, I always had been a lineup guy, right? But once I learned how best ball is with Dynasty, how you build your teams and everything, I actually like it more than lineup leagues now, because to me lineup leagues have gotten a little boring or stale towards the bottom. Like, I have so many teams in my lineup leagues where literally half my roster is running backs, right? But in best ball, yes, I do roster a ton of wide receivers, but in best ball, like in a rookie draft, I'm actually looking at the rookie wide receivers then in rounds 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I don't know if you found that in your. I don't know how many leagues do you play that are best ball versus lineup, Ty?
That's a good question. Let me just pull up my. I want to say probably about 75% best ball. Yeah. About
Okay,
70.
so you're a lot more best ball. Okay.
A lot more best ball. But again, I started at lineup, and I agree. Like, it's two different games, right? Where lineup
Yeah.
it's about who are the top 10 guys on your roster, whereas best ball is about who are your bottom 12 guys on your roster, right? And like you said, in the drafts, it makes your third, fourth, fifths more meaningful. It creates more opportunities for trades. It creates more opportunities for people to build differently in different league formats. So it is a different game. But yeah, if I'm adding a league at this point, there is a high likelihood that it's best ball.
Oh yeah, I will not add any more lineup leagues. There's no doubt about that. So, yeah, and what we were talking about is especially these rounds 10 through 20 here. I can't really I'll just bring it up like this. But rounds 10 through 20, you saw just a ton of these tight ends go, and that's why I try to emphasize the format. I know you guys do all the time over there on DD Fantasy, and I try to do the same as much as I can to my listeners. The format matters so much, and that's why you see in rounds 14 through 16 here, we had like half the picks were tight ends.
Yeah.
And they're viable because they can be good pieces added into deals that we make. Now, Bowers might be untradeable, and same with Trey McBride, right? And that's what I told Havdi the minute he picked Bowers. I'm like, well, you took him there, and you're probably never going to trade him.
Yeah. Especially if you take him 101, you need 101 value coming back, man. And I don't know
Right.
who's going to step up and pony up that price, but you got the guy, you know?
Oh, I'll tell you something. In another startup we did just prior to this with a 1.0 tight end premium, somebody actually traded Lamar plus a first. No, it was Lamar plus 2 firsts for Bowers and a first.
Oh, my.
I thought he was insane, but
Oh, my.
that's what he did.
Wow. You love to see some conviction, man. And if we all thought the same, Dynasty would be very, very boring. So that is something else.
Absolutely.
I love me some good tight end talks. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is great, and I really appreciate you coming on here. Let's see, is there anything else you want to mention around just rounds 11 through 20, just
11 through 20.
just in general?
I mean,
Like, is there a
see how quick quarterback dried up after like round 12?
yeah,
Right? Like, you got to
Yeah.
get your quarterback right early, because again, like we could name a ton of player bets that we want to make in the later rounds, but I want to have my quarterback problem solved pretty much by the 8th or 9th round if I can. You know what I mean?
yeah? And what about just being stuck with 2 quarterbacks versus 3 or more starters? How do you, like, I ended up with 4.
Yeah.
Ramzak here was able to get Kyler, as you mentioned earlier, and then grabbed Rodgers, who's basically looked at as the bottom. That's the cutoff, right? Rodgers and maybe Shook, if you want to call it that. And I guess we could throw Daniel Jones in there too now.
Yeah,
But
maybe a Russ Wilson, right? I,
right,
to answer your question, I'm cool with it because we did this one in June. We're currently in July.
yeah,
We are not scoring points right now, and I don't need my roster to be
yeah,
ideal or optimal. Optimally, I have 3 to 4 quarterback options every week. Hell, even more if I don't have like a nice option I can bet on. But there were over like 60 starters at quarterback over multiple seasons. So I know there's going to be opportunities to work the waiver wire or to work trades to find my way into some of these other starts if and when I need to. So I'm cool having two, especially if that means that I have an advantage elsewhere that I can use against the league.
yeah. So keep that in mind. Don't go just because you didn't get, like we're talking Rodgers here, just because you didn't get Rodgers and you missed out on him, it didn't mean that you necessarily had to take Tyler Shook. Now, that's not a terrible pick either, but what we're getting at is, don't make a terrible trade to move up and grab Geno Smith then. All right. Just keep drafting value, and you are able to. You mentioned 60 quarterback starts. Was that just
crazy.
last year? Yeah. So there's a lot of players that will get starts at the quarterback position. I know they're doing everything in the NFL to prevent them from getting hurt, but it doesn't really seem to be working at the quarterback position because it is a war of attrition, and there's many guys out there who we didn't even draft here that will get bid on, and will get bid on plenty, because when a quarterback becomes available, a bench guy, and whether it's for
Ring the dinner bell.
oh yeah,
We're gonna come running,
right, even if it's just for 1 week, it's they get bought at pretty high prices. We'll just put it that way. All right. Well, I don't know if there's anything else you want to mention about this draft in particular that went a little different.
Oh,
I think
a
we
little
touched
different.
on.
Yeah, this is a nice little brain project over the off season because definitely not your typical startup, not your typical values, but that's what makes it fun, right? I think the one more thing I wanted to look at was just Super Megato's team.
Oh yeah, yeah, because he went more with the younger team.
Young, right?
There we go.
How do you feel about taking the bets, especially like in a best ball league or like in general? Are you more of a veteran guy? Are you more of a youth guy? Or like how would you feel if you walked away with Super Megato's team?
That's not the way that I tend to build in best ball versus lineup league. And the reason being is that in best ball, you're much more likely to see like for instance, this league we've got 7 teams making the playoffs. Okay, just the 1 seed gets the bye. You're more likely in a best ball format to see 6 or 7, especially out of the gate in the first year. The 5, 6, or 7 seed could easily win the league. Okay, so I don't want to put myself that far down in a hole unless I got some monster trade where I'm getting 2 firsts and a player for another player that sure, I don't know that I want to trade Jaden Daniels, right? But if somebody's offering me 2 firsts plus a quarterback for Drake May, okay, then I could see going down that road. Yeah, right. And I love Drake May and everything going for him, but that's the kind of deal where yes, then I could get swayed into going down that road possibly. But otherwise, I mean, you look at my squad, and once I took McCaffrey, I stayed fluid up until that point. And but once I took McCaffrey, man, it was all out points I was looking for, right? McCaffrey, Kamara, Mark Andrews, Geno, Goddard, all older guys that I knew I was getting points from, and that was strictly because I took McCaffrey here. Had I taken, I don't know, had I taken RJ Harvey there instead, right? Had I gone rookie running back, then you wouldn't have seen, I would not have taken Kamara. It pains me when I see that sometimes. I see some newer guy or whatever in the league, and they take a rookie running back one round, and then the next round they're taking one of the wily old veterans. They're taking Joe Mixon or something. It just doesn't make sense. You have to hold off as long as you can from going one route or the other, but once you do, stick with it. Have conviction, you know? Go with your build and believe in it. That's really what I can take from that. And more often than not, I see that pocket in round 6 through 9, and I just see veteran points. Even in round 10 with Godwin, like there's so many points there. It's hard to pass up on, and I don't want to be drafting rookies like Jaden Higgins or Matthew Golden, those types, even Egbuka, when I know I can be getting points. I don't know if that's how you feel.
I know you want that Ibuka. I know you want that Ibuka. I know you do. But I see those points as well, and it's hard for me to say no. So I totally agree.
Yeah. So Megatoast, I'm in a couple other leagues with him. He definitely he can play. He knows he knows what he's doing, because he stayed convicted though. If you look down his team, like he grabbed Joe Milton down here.
Aligned. And there, you said, there's not the Cooper Cup mixed in there. You know, like
no,
it is what it
right.
is. If it doesn't hit, it'll probably be one of the contenders for an early pick in our league. Which, if I'm not going to be winning, I might as well be the first to lose. Right, get a better pick, and your team is so aligned for a roster like that with little holes. After, like, if you give it a year. So as far as a speculation bet and see what happens, I like what he did. As far as a trying to win year one, I don't like what he did. So you have to just choose your lane, and like you said, once you choose it. Don't go halfway.
Right, and he did not go halfway, and from other leagues, like I said, that I've been in with him, he knows how to get the 101. I'll put it that way.
Oh, yeah.
And he did it right here. Like, he's got over half of his roster has to be rookies.
About that, and if
probably
not, second-year
more
players, you know?
Right, and so you're going to have a low point total. A couple of these dudes are going to hit, and he can either decide then to hang on to them or grab more draft capital. I mean, there's maybe one or two other teams right now looking at it that might be going down that road, but I can't definitively say anybody else right now. Like you said off the top, this is a pretty even league. A lot of teams that could win it. I'm just glad I was able to build a good veteran point scoring team, and I ended up with an extra first too. Yeah. So I mean, that'll help me in the no trade deadline period.
I think what you did, I think that you came out with one of probably the best starting lineup. A lot of flexibility with that future first, and not a lot of need. So I really like what you did, but I like what a lot of the other teams did. So this is, like I said, this is the first chapter. You can't win it out of the startup, but you can't lose it.
Nope.
And a lot of teams didn't lose it. So this is what I like in Dynasty, when we start out at the startup, and it's anyone's guess of what actually happens come September. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Absolutely, I'm excited too. I'm glad to have you in this league, as well as the Best Ball Bruni. I'll be talking about this league with him in another week. Again, Ty, why don't you mention the shows you've got over on DD Fantasy before we finish up here?
Yeah, I don't if I'm not good at checking DMs, but over on X at DeClare44, over on Discord at DeClare44. Yeah, I do things over at DD Fantasy Football. I got the All Gas Trade Show every Saturday, Dynasty Deal Show every Friday. Happy to see people come out and drop your pins in the comments. You can message me any kind of trade questions. Always happy to talk ball. And thanks so much for having me on, Chris. It was fun. It's a fun startup, and glad we're able to dissect it more and more and try to find those gold and the meaning behind some things. So I like it.
Yes, I love it having you on here, Ty. And for all the listeners out there, trust me, Ty's Saturday morning trade show is a regular on my watch list. And so I appreciate all you do there, Ty. It's great work. Fantastic. Yeah. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining us today in the Birdhouse and remind you that you should never stop working.